Snow White is probably the most iconic and well-known fairy tale in the Western world. The original Brothers Grimm story is not as old as many people think, with the original German tale being released in 1812. However, the Snow White story that most of us know and love today wouldn't come out until 100 years later in 1912, with a stage play titled Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But the story would once again be updated in 1937 in Walt Disney's breakout animated feature film. Despite many iterations of the Snow White story being released since then, from Snow White and the Huntsman to a Muppet Snow White, the Disney story is probably the most iconic and well-known version of the tale. By now you've probably heard that Disney is making a live-action version of their iconic animated story, and the lead actress Rachel Zegler has implied in interviews that they are changing the story to be different from the original tale. This has caused outrage among many fans, but for myself, I'm actually not one of them. The Snow White story is something that's been changed over and over again throughout the years. However, I will say, just because Disney is updating the story does not mean that this update is going to be any good. Don't get me wrong. And while we don't have enough details to pass judgment on the changes that they're making in this movie today, in this video, I wanted to do my own retelling of the original Snow White story, updating it for modern audiences here in 2024, while still keeping the charm and beauty of the original story. Today, I'll be discussing a brief history of the animated movie, what I do like and what I don't like as much in the animated Snow White movie, and how I would rewrite this film in 2024. Hi, my name is Liz and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I talk about all things nerdy from anime, mostly animation, movies, TV shows. I talk about it all. I hope you go on to enjoy this video, and if you do, let me know in the comments and be sure to leave a like. But without further delay, let's jump into this history, what I do and don't like, and retelling of Snow White. Walt Disney would sit on the idea to make his own version of Snow White for over a decade after he saw a version of the story in 1916, which was a version of that iconic 1912 stage play that I mentioned. To many, the story of Snow White may seem very simple. However, every other element surrounding this storybook-like plot makes it so much more complicated and charming. For starters, the amount of labor that went into traditionally animating a feature film during this time can only be summed up to grueling. The way traditional animation works is that the artists literally have to write and draw every single frame one by one and basically put it all together kind of in one giant stop motion. It's definitely the reason why most studios in the modern day have opted away from doing traditional animation, with the exception of some studios like, for example, Studio Ghibli. The amount of work could also explain why up until that point in 1937, nobody in the United States had created a full feature-length animated film. However, unlike what many people believe, Snow White was not the first feature-length animated film ever. The actual first film that's still preserved to this day is a German film called The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. However, unlike his predecessors, Disney would take animation to a whole other level. Snow White implements a key feature in animation and also something that becomes iconic to the Disney style, known as personality animation. According to the Library of Congress quotes, Walt had urged his artists to go beyond the simple mechanics of animation and create characters who moved, gestured, and walked in ways that expressed their personalities. This was an extraordinarily difficult art, and the Disney artists strove to master it. Not only did they take this quite literally in the Snow White film, having 7 dwarves be named after character traits and character designs that reflect those traits, but the entire film, from the expressiveness of the animals and the cryptic nature of some of the forest scenes, Snow White is a timeless feat of animation. And when I watched the film again, this was the #1 thing that I kept coming back to, because it is truly stunning and genuinely just awe-inspiring to see what they were able to create in 1937. However, in 2024, it takes a lot more than groundbreaking animation to actually impress audiences. Trust me, I've been watching anime for years, and I've seen my fair share of animes who think that they can get away with making the most atrocious, terrible, cringy plot lines just because they have stunning animation to go alongside it. I wouldn't say the story of Snow White is necessarily bad, but it's just very simple, and audiences would definitely want more in 2024. In rewriting the story, something that I hope to do is just expand upon the story that we're given already, because the frameworks are there. Again, the story is not bad, it's just very simple, and I think there's a lot of elements that could definitely be expanded upon. But what parts of the story do I think need updating? Number one, Snow White is 14 and the prince is 18. So let's not do that. Let's not do that. And just a pop quiz, what is the prince's name in Snow White? I'll give you a second to think. Even comment it if you want to. Do you know? The answer? The prince. He does not have a name. He has no name. His name is the prince. And this definitely feeds into my second issue with the film. Snow White and the prince do not have a relationship. Their relationship is non-existent. The prince appears 2 times in the film. One in the beginning when he literally terrifies her. She's just going about her business and he freaking spooks her. And at the very end of the story. That's the only 2 times he appears in the movie. And then he literally kisses her. And the reason why is actually really fascinating because it's not like they only wanted to have him in the film 2 times. However, the prince is the most realistic in appearance in terms of his style. And this was incredibly difficult to animate at the time. And so because of this, the animators actually only ended up putting him in the film twice. They intended to have him in many more scenes. For example, there was supposed to be a scene where the queen was going to imprison the prince before he went out and saved Snow White. But again, it was just way too difficult to animate his appearance at the time, so he only appears in the film twice. And again, as a result, the prince and Snow White really do not have a relationship. And honestly, the prince doesn't even have a personality. We don't know who this man is. He doesn't even have a name. The man doesn't even have a name. And so definitely in rewriting the story, we will be alleviating all of that. Number 3 is Snow White's parents' deaths. I don't have a problem with this, but this is something that I think I could definitely just tap into and use more in terms of like the world building or just in terms of how or what it will feed into plot-wise. And number 4 is the why. Why does the queen want to be the fairest of them all? Does she just want to be the best because she's that vain? Like, hey, that's not a bad reason. Again, not saying that every single plot line needs to have these deep intrinsic reasons as to why people are doing what they're doing, but I just think it'll be really fun to explore. Maybe there's some ulterior motive that the queen really wants to be the fairest of them all for. Does she gain something? I guess we'll have to see. With that being said, it's now time to get into my rewrite of the film. And the way this works is that I usually give a synopsis of the film and then I save some other details at the end that I'm not able to fit into the actual synopsis of the film. I will say, maybe I'm just beating myself up because I tend to do that, but I feel like this is not my best rewrite. So if y'all think you can do it better, which you probably could, let me know in the comments. This was honestly really difficult to rewrite in terms of trying to keep the charm and like feel the same as the original yet update it for modern audiences. It's really difficult to take something that's so iconic and what so many people love, try to keep all of those elements while still incorporating so much more depth. But before I get into my rewritten story, consider subscribing if you have gone on to enjoy this video so far. I am a tiny channel. I just reached 1,000 subscribers, which in a world of Charlie D'Amelios and Bella Porches may seem like literally nothing, but to me, that means the world. So if you have subscribed at this point, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And if you want to join the I don't have a name for people, the Liz Army, the Liz Minions, consider subscribing and leaving a like and comment because that really helps the algorithm. But without further ado, what you clicked on this video for, my rewritten version of the story, which I'll be looking down at my laptop for because, not gonna lie, it's kind of long and I have not memorized this whole thing, of course. Legend has it in the kingdom of Germonia, which is actually the name of the kingdom, only the fairest of them all has the power to control the will of the land and all who lie in it. The fairest is the most beautiful and adored person in the kingdom. This power can only be accessed during a period of time that the moon aligns with the sun, through the realm of mirrors. Snow White's mother previously held this title, but died during childbirth, passing that title onto the evil stepmother, who married Snow White's father after his wife's passing. However, when Snow White turns 10, the evil queen finds out she's the one who will continue to inherit the fairest of them all title by asking her mirror, a mirror which she communicates with using a glass shard. That's how she's able to actually talk to the mirror. Because now Snow White is the most beautiful in Germonia and she's also the most well loved by everyone in the palace. In order to make the rest of the kingdom turn on Snow White, the queen reduces her to a servant and spreads the most vile rumors about her to the rest rest of the palace, causing those who loved her to turn on her. And these rumors are vicious, the worst one being that she is somehow at fault for her father's recent passing, making her a truly unfortunate person to be around since she was quote-unquote behind both of her parents' deaths. The queen is ultimately successful and she once again becomes the fairest, perfectly timed for the eclipse that's coming soon in a few years. Fast forward and into our prince, who for now we will just call Prince, who stumbles upon a now 18-year-old Snow White doing her chores while his family visits the palace for an extended period. While visiting, he had heard terrible rumors about her, but befriends her anyways and sees that these are all false. Over time, their friendship grows. He even helps her with her chores, they hang out, they have cute little date moments, and the rest of the palace sees this and starts being more friendly to Snow White too. Because of this, Snow White once again becomes the fairest. Upon hearing this, the queen grows angry and orders a huntsman to take her into the woods and maim her. He fails, / lets her go, but brings back some black horsehair as proof anyways. The queen once again creates a rumor about Snow White running away, causing doubt about her character to spread among the palace. Meanwhile, Snow White stumbles upon our 7 dwarves, who while were skeptical about her at first, also befriend her. This favor among the dwarves, coupled with the fact that she wasn't maimed, plus the palace people being skeptical about her running away stories, makes Snow White remain the fairest. In a bout of anger, the queen finds a spell that can use the power of her mirror shard to her advantage, stealing away Snow White's soul and imprisoning her in a mirror realm. With the eclipse here in the mirror realm now open, the queen ventures in to gain the power over the kingdom and everyone in it. The prince also enters the realm after discovering Snow White is trapped there, freeing Snow White. Together they both defeat the queen, imprisoning her in the realm and destroy the magic mirror once and for all, so that nobody will be able to know who is the fairest of them all. And of course, no one will have the opportunity to steal that magic power. In the end, the prince brings Snow White's soul back to her body and the rest is history. So these are some other details that I was not able to fit in. Also, sorry, it's kind of a lot. This was a lot more world building compared to my Wish rewrite because I was trying to expand upon an already existing world, which is a little bit difficult, but I did the best I could. But here's some other details. So if you are trying to become the fairest of them all, you cannot kill the existing fairest because, you know, the act of murder would inherently make you not fair. The reason why the queen asks the mirror who is the fairest of them all is because the mirror is like the guardian, like spirit of this magical power that she is trying to harness. So I think that really makes sense. She's basically asking like, will I be able to get in? Will I be the fairest so that I can come into your realm and grab this power to take over the kingdom and basically control all who live in it? Another detail is while Snow White is away, the prince is trying to figure out what happens to her. He's basically like on a mission and like very skeptical over all the rumors and all this stuff. And basically this whole time, he's the one who's kind of stirring doubt within all the rumors and talking to the palace like staff and court members and stuff like that. And so that's kind of his role within all of that. He eventually finds out the truth by finding the huntsman who the queen hired, who is imprisoned because obviously he didn't do the right job. However, before the prince can go and save Snow White, the queen catches him and then ultimately she also imprisons him and he has to find a way to escape, which he's not able to do before she eventually does that spell on Snow White that takes away her soul, but he does go into the mirror realm because basically the eclipse is happening and like you can access this realm by basically going through any mirror. That was kind of the intention there, like all mirrors kind of open up this portal into this realm. Now in terms of the kiss at the end, I already know for a fact in 2024, I'm not sure how Disney's gonna do it, if they're gonna do it at all. The kiss is very iconic at the end, but consent is real. And honestly, even the first film, again, 14 years old, they only spoke once, but we're not gonna get into that. But how would I do the kiss? Because I feel like, again, it's still iconic. It's the romance, it's the lovey-dovey. Basically, the way that the queen's curse works that she puts on Snow White when she steals away her soul is that the soul can only be returned to the body if it is loved. So basically, I guess, deserving of being brought back into the world, which sounds messed up. And it is. But I think it would go along with the theme really well of like Snow White not really being loved by anyone or liked by anyone, but the prince being the person who ultimately, you know, changes that and makes people actually warm up to Snow White again. So when he rescues her, he learns about this conditionality and he basically communicates with her soul and she's like, you have to kiss me in order to, you know, bring my soul back. And he's like, I didn't realize you loved me like that, or something like that. Some sort of like cute, you can imagine that, like cheesy interaction where they're like, so you love me? And he's like, of course I love you. And he's like, so you'll kiss me? And then she's like, yeah, please kiss me, or something like that. And they kiss as a soul, and then he goes and brings her body back in the end, and then he also kisses her body, and it's really cute. So something like that. In terms of the prince's personality and why he opens up to Snow White in the first place, I think it would be really cool if he had personal ties to that. So maybe his father was like a servant and his mother was like royalty, but she didn't really care that of his status or the rumors about him, or like maybe he was accused of something when he was younger, and she eventually fell in love with him anyways, and then he was born. And so for him, that really hits close to home, and then ultimately that's why he says all these rumors are bull, and Snow White's probably great. I'm gonna find out for myself, and then the rest is history. And then lastly, this isn't like a story plot device or anything, but I think it would be really cool if this film was animated. If it was updated, I would love to see it in traditionally animated 2D animation to not only pay homage to the original, but then also just show how much animation has transformed over the past almost 100 years now. I just think it's really beautiful to see traditional animation. I'm biased, it's my favorite medium of animation, but hey, I think that would look really, really great. So yeah, that is my overall rewrite of Snow White's story. I'm very curious to know what y'all think, so make sure you leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. What would you change about mine? What would you add to mine? I'm very curious to see what Disney actually ends up doing on their part. I guess we're gonna just have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching, and once again, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I will hopefully see you in the next one if you have subscribed, or if I just pop up on your timeline again. You better click on my video if it comes up again on your timeline. I'm joking. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye, y'all.